Production design and costume design was always going to be a huge part of this film. It's a period film set in 1975. Our costume designer did an amazing job of finding period costumes from that era.
It's a very flattering era, you could say. Very high-waisted pants and very tight-fitted shirts for the boys.
Nice pants, Peters.
We've got lots of lovely patterns, prints, and lots of lovely high-waisted original 70s trousers. Quite frankly, it's not the most comfortable era for men.
Right.
It's a lot of polyester, a lot of tight-fitting pants, lots of smelly shirts. Yeah, it was the era of polyester.
The era of polyester.
Yeah, makeup looks fantastic.
I think he looks a bit like Nick Cave.
I needed to find guys that could grow beards, you know, that could be hairy.
And the lamb chops?
His hair, my work.
And so they all embarked on that. They grew sideburns, they let their beards go, they let their hair go.
Mr. 70s, here he comes.
He doesn't get the role if he doesn't go out tonight and pick
up.
someone up.
I think you can see in the film how all of those guys found out a way to try and physically feel like they were inhabiting the 70s.
You got a full Perm.
Yeah, man.
If anyone's got a dirty toilet, just tip me upside down. Yeah.
And Paulie Stewart, Tony's brother, came along one day with these Doc Marten boots that were Tony's. And Mark tried them on, and I don't think he took them off for the entire time we were in Timor. You know, for him, going there to play this character and to wear the shoes that this man had worn was a significant part of how he got into that character.
Look at the lamb chops.
What's for dinner? Chops.
I think Gary Cunningham had these huge, you know, chops, and Guyton really had to grow them right up until we were filming. It was like, do not shave.
I've got chop envy, actually.
I think I might have the king chop, actually.
I think you have the king chop.
We had a very small crew. We had about 12 people that we took on the road, and we had about 20 Timorese as well. We were training Timorese to work with us. But what that meant was that people had to have multiple roles.
Plugged in.
He's fishing. Have a fish, mate. There you go. There you go.
Great. You know, on huge set-piece days, the other actors would become second and third assistant directors. So we needed other crew members to help take responsibility for the practical side of moving cameras around, approaching, you know, the costuming of an entire town of non-actors.
Just dressing some extras.
How many extras do you have to dress?
Today there are 50.
Our whole strategy with costuming the film was to have a four-wheel drive full of costumes. We'd drive around East Timor and we'd come to a village and encourage people to be in the film and dress them there on the spot. I remember in one sequence we had a whole gathering of Timorese together who'd been costumed, and then a whole gathering of Timorese who'd come to watch the shoot.
Yeah, if you checked out the 70s costume, look at this, these grey flares on this Fatland soldier here.
Here we go!
Just in case people think we just grabbed locals and threw them in the film.
Wow.
This is a very
They're hot
extreme
flares.
example.
Very hot flares.
No, how about these red flares on this little...
They're natural, actually. They're all natural.
Incredible challenges. You know, I remember the wardrobe team having to get used to the idea that 100 Timorese soldiers would turn up with machine guns, put their machine guns down, get out of their military uniforms into our Indonesian military uniforms and be given replica guns. I remember she actually got a patch of the Indonesian military camouflage and had an entire crate load of military uniforms made in China.
Gary and the crew have been out in the bush for a couple of days. So they wouldn't be clean shaven, but then for continuity's sake, we can't really be growing beards, can we? No.
I'm just looking at those hot shorts over there.
Yeah, no. We all are.
I needed to find an actor to play Greg Shackleton who could pull off wearing those white shorts. The interesting thing about those stubby white shorts that Greg Shackleton wore is that he actually wore ones that are shorter than the ones we've got in the film.
That's Damon Gamo. Now, how'd you find working with...
Tell the truth!
Distracting, because it's just so sexy.
in the shorts?
Those legs. Yeah, those legs, they're powerful to look at.
They're powerful?
I'd say magnetic.
Alright, let's get a clean shot of that.
I don't know about the Southern Cross though, mate.
Thank you.
You can't overemphasize period elements. If lapels are huge, as they were, people's eye goes to them, so you need to take the edge slightly off them. If those shorts were as short as they actually were, people wouldn't have paid any attention to the sequence.
We spoke to one soldier today who believes that a potion given to him by his family...
It was very hard to find a lot of the props that we needed there. We didn't have the resources to bring many with us from Australia, so it depended on an incredible amount of ingenuity from people to find the props we needed. You know, old typewriters, telexes, military vehicles, because 90% of the buildings were destroyed by the Indonesians in '99 as they retreated. And interestingly, the Jeep in the film that Ramos Horta drives around in is actually a Jeep that the President of East Timor, Ramos Horta, owns in his own private collection of vehicles, and one that he lent us. The difficulties we faced in those driving sequences was a huge challenge to overcome. The car that the journalists drive around in, I think we found the only one that there was left in East Timor. We painted it the colour of the Jeep that is famously seen in all of the footage that the journalists sent back. But it was a nightmare. It kept breaking down. It shouldn't have been able to keep driving. You know, I had a complicated problem that the car was breaking down and the actor, Osme, who'd taken the role as the driver, couldn't drive. You know, we arrive in East Timor and the first scene he had to play, he said to Damon Gammon, who plays Greg Shackleton, "I'm going to need a hand working out how to drive this." There was one day where the car had to drive around the cliff line next to the sea when the actors came to me and said, "We are refusing to get in the car with Osme, he can't drive." And I had to find a double.
No, it's quiet.
No.
They're all live guns.
They got live plastic guns. So they haven't got guns.
They haven't got...
But we have guns.
Okay.
And they can
We made a decision very early on that we didn't want any real guns used in the entire shoot for safety reasons. So we worked with a Melbourne company on making replica guns from the period. Incredibly difficult bringing them back into Australia. Interestingly, much easier taking them into East Timor. And those replica guns really helped us out. It meant that we could do sequences with men running around with machine guns, but not have the fear that they might be a dangerous weapon. You know, certainly we're talking about a country with such unrest over the 24 years of occupation and the 10 years since independence, that using real guns would have been irresponsible.
This poor guy dropped a grenade.
So what are you applying here?
It's called third degree. It's like a fake skin. You've got to work really fast with it because it dries really fast. It's got a short shelf life, and unfortunately in this heat it gives me about 6 to 7 minutes to play with, and then it's dry.
Okay.
With such a small crew, one person in the makeup department in remote East Timor, when we did sequences that involved blood and wounds and you know, any kind of physical damage to people's bodies, we needed it to be all hands on deck. You know, Angela Conti's work on the massacre scene, all of those bodies stretched out across the field, was really interesting because she made a judgment call, which was that we didn't have the resources to do huge blood effects, but that in her experience, the way people fall when they're killed is much more awful and brutal than actually seeing wounds. And so she went amongst this crowd of 50 people and actually put them in physical positions that reflected the tragedy of their murder. If you have a look at it, it's the way their bodies are twisted and lying, and that makes you feel awful. It was that kind of collaborative nature with everyone working together and sharing the responsibility, I think, that created a great spirit of adventure as we were making the film and taking, you know, this very small crew on the road.